ring light and all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah, look at this, man. Yeah, I was gonna say. All right, here we are.
Right.
Yeah, you are looking professional there.
I had to do it, man.
That's
I forgot
it,
I
bro.
had it. Actually.
Yeah, man. You get these little lights in. It doesn't occur to you that until you start to do it, and you know a lot more about it than I do. How inexpensive this shit is nowadays.
Yeah, it is. And everybody, especially with this whole TikTok craze and all this stuff that's going on, everyone's getting these ring lights. So, the more
Yeah,
demand, the more production, and the prices go down.
they're like 10 or 15 bucks. And so I've got one working here now, and it's got a clip for like my phone. So, I take notes, and, I want to talk about things during the course of the stream. And, I've just have this phone clamped right here to the left of the laptop screen. And so
That's
I
what
can
I'm
constantly
using.
refer back to. For this room, it's that little ring light wasn't enough, so I bought like real like podcasting tripod lamps. But
Oh
they were
wow, you're
like,
doing all out.
well, it was like two for $30.
Oh, that's not bad at all,
No,
really.
right off Amazon.
Wow, I know it was that cheap for those extra lights. I
Yeah,
thought those standard, movie film lights would be a little more expensive.
No, and these are really bright and help a lot for this room. So yeah, I mean, you forget, how well you don't realize until you do realize how inexpensive this stuff is to set up. It's not that bad. You just have to learn how to do it.
Exactly.
So we are live here, and I'm back with my man Rod Jean Charles. He's back with us one more time. Good to see you again, brother.
Nice seeing you too, man.
It doesn't happen nearly often enough, and after the show, let's talk about getting you linked up.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So I must be getting old because now it's 10 o'clock at night here on the East Coast, and I'm sipping tea. And you know as well as anybody,
green tea.
No. I'm not doing any of that joyless shit. I mean, I'm going to I'm gonna have some black tea. I'm gonna heap some sugar in it to get me through this. But I guess we are with another episode of The Late Show, and we're going to tackle Train to Busan. So are you ready to go?
Let's hit it, brother.
All right, man. So this is a movie. This movie came out 5 years ago, 2016. For me, the story of my life is being late to the party consistently. And I'm one of those people. If I get late to the party, I'm fine with it, but because I'm just used to it now at this point. But then, like, I hit it harder than or as hard. I'd like to believe, or in my mind, as the people who've been there from day one. So this movie's 5 years old. I say all that to say this movie's 5 years old. I just saw it like a month ago. I had wanted to see it. I heard really good things, but then, we were just talking about this last night on the top 10 list. And I think Bill Bengal's number 2 or number 3 was Night of the Living Dead. And we were just talking about how now there's just an endless deluge of zombie movies.
That's why I hate zombie movies now. I'm not part of that Gen X. I mean, that Generation Z or millennials who got into the zombie craze. I seriously was against and hate zombie movies.
Well, I don't hate them. They're not my favorite genre of horror, but clearly I wasn't like knocking things out of the way to get to this. Yeah, it was like that because I was just like, oh God, this is going to be another zombie movie. It's going to be World War Z, except it's going to be overseas. And I think this might be the first Asian movie we're covering. It might be the first foreign flick. I know it's the first non-English language movie. And I was like, finally, I got around to it one day, and it was on Hulu, where all, so many killer horror movies are. And I was just like, holy shit, this is fantastic. It's just, it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it definitely blew me away. I did not know it was a zombie movie until I turned it on. And
Okay.
I cursed you out for a second.
Well, won't be the first time. It probably won't be the last, but
I'm like, you're making me watch a zombie movie, really? And then it's a foreign movie at that.
Son of a bitch.
Asshole.
Here's the thing. About 2 weeks ago, we covered a movie, and I wish you had been there. I wish we had everybody there. John and Bill were there for it, though. We covered a movie directed by Ari Aster. You may have heard of it, called Hereditary.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
With Toni Collette and Gabriel Byrne. And for me, I think it might be the greatest horror movie I've ever seen in my life. And I listed it in the top 10 list as my number one movie. My favorite horror movie to date.
I guess I have to watch it.
I think if you've got Showtime, it's on Showtime right now. But the trick with Hereditary was that, and I heard I have it on Blu-ray, and Gabriel Byrne, there's a small documentary in the Blu-ray where Gabriel Byrne's talking, and he said the success of the movie is that it's rooted in, the structure is rooted not in horror, but in a reality.
Yes.
And I find that this is the case. I'm seeing, now that he said it that way, like I'm seeing this in so many of the movies that I really like. Not everyone. Not every movie that I like. There are some movies that are just straight up horror movies, and you're like, wow, this is really a movie, but it doesn't include any of that. This movie was. It's rooted in this father.
Character development, storyline. It's the whole concept of the whole thing. There's a story to it, not just cut them up, gush them up, eat them up type of movie.
Yeah, you're invested in these characters, and you've got things that, even though it's the zombie apocalypse, that you can relate to. You've got a father-daughter relationship that isn't great. You've got a man who struggles with who in the corporate world. He's very successful, but he's divorced. His wife really doesn't talk to him very much. His young daughter, he lives with his daughter, but she really doesn't, his relationship with her is not great.
Yeah.
There are a lot of human things that are developed and reiterated throughout the story that make you invested in these characters. And then they interweave the horror.
Yeah.
With that.
But they continue to grow that character while they're interweaving that horror, which I found, very creative, very different. I really enjoyed it because, it wasn't just, okay, let's show you about these characters and the relationship of this family and then just go on about the killing. It kind of showed him growing and maturing and in this time and how his actions have affected his daughter and his family.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that, you can do it in a much more simplistic way. And I'm thinking of that movie, Dawn of the Dead. I don't know if you remember that one, with Ving Rhames. And there is some small, attempt at, but that's not the point of the movie, to develop who these people are. And Ving Rhames, although you never see him, he hopes to see his brother one day. He feels that his brother is waiting for him in another area of the city, and then he finds out that that part of the city has fallen. So there is development that way, but not to this extent. This is really, really fantastic story writing.
Yeah,
this is fantastic writing. I think I found out that 20% of the population of South Korea saw it when it came out 5 years ago. So that's 11 million people. But I mean, that number, that 20%, that's quite a few people. So you're talking about what was a huge blockbuster, and well-deserved flick. So what ends up, I mean, this movie starts out for reasons that we're not made to understand. There's some sort of chemical leak that has begun the zombie apocalypse, and it's basically the story of a man who is a funds manager, kind of high-end businessman,
cutthroat.
Yeah, he is kind of cutthroat, but he's not mean-spirited. He's not a mean-spirited bit. It's just that's the corporate world that he lives in. You get the impression that he has people to answer to, because he's taking calls from a boss, and then it all kind of rolls downhill.
Well, the whole funds manager thing was important to the movie.
Yes,
and because you're a funds manager, you are like, pulling the rug out from people and their livelihoods and their world and crumbling it and going on to the next corporation that you're trying to do that to, and you're basically heartless.
There is an argument that I read about this, that it was a critique of the South Korean business world, these sorts of things, and how selfish people are, which is definitely something I want to get into. While we're talking about this movie, but this man is, he's part of that system. He's divorced. He's living with his young daughter, who's probably less than 10, and his old mother. And his relationship with his daughter is not great. There's neglect. There's neglect there because he's always working. It's not like he's out carousing or he's out doing drugs or, he's drinking or anything. He goes to work. He seems like a guy, he just goes to work and he comes home. But he's so often at work that, by the time he gets home, it seems like, his daughter's almost ready for bed, and he really doesn't have much of a relationship. And she's too young to... Go ahead.
He gets her the same... There's the Child's Day, I guess, in Korea.
Yeah.
And you got him a Wii, or his assistant got him a Wii, and then for her birthday, which is probably a few months later, she got the same exact present, and him thinking that's a big thing.
Yeah, he bought her the same present twice, and it was a Wii, like a major purchase, and it was just he doesn't even realize what he's buying his daughter, because he's probably not buying it. You're right, it's his assistant. Or his personal assistant is going out and doing shopping for his daughter and bought the same thing twice. And the only thing his daughter seems to want is to catch this train to Busan to go see her mother, who the father doesn't seem to have a good relationship with at all. And so he isn't going to take her, but then the guilt of buying her the wrong birthday present, or buying her the same present twice, he agrees to take her, not knowing that that's where they're going to be when the zombie apocalypse kind of kicks off. Which sets it apart from a lot of other different movies when you talk about zombie movies, because there's usually big open fields and big chase scenes, and here it's very claustrophobic. There are these narrow, it's more of a much slower kind of burn feeling, as they try to, navigate their way from car to car. There are much shorter trips, that they're taking. Once it sort of kicks off, because one infected person gets on and ends up biting one of the train employees, and then from there it's bedlam.
And exactly, just because, and it's so funny how they turn. That's a question I have, is they turn so fast, at some point, and sometimes it took him time to turn to a zombie, which didn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? It's
Well,
like,
my understanding was if you died, you changed instantly. If you got bit and you lived, then it took a little bit longer.
okay, that makes sense. That makes
Okay.
sense.
So, I mean, it's bloody without being gory. I mean, there's no gratuitous kind of gore to it. When you see the bites, they're all kind of implied, but you know how they do it in America nowadays. It's just, the blood is like flying and body parts and intestines, and you
Yeah,
got the walking.
they're biting through the flesh, and you can see the
Yeah,
flesh underneath. Where
yeah,
in this movie they show the bite mark, the deep bite mark, which is realistic.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And you
yeah.
see the bite mark on him.
I remember The Walking Dead. By the time we got to a certain season, we were just waiting every episode for the gratuitous kill. There was at least one gratuitous kill per episode, where it was just going to be some graphic, drawn out, intestines are spilling out, this sort of thing. They didn't do that with this, and I kind of appreciated that. I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, the kind of success that this dad has, it comes with a price.
Yeah.
Because again, I get the impression that he's not a bad guy, or anything like that. And I think he loves his daughter. It's a part of life. And I remember working when I was in India, and a lot of my Indian friends, I mean, they used to call each other that. And so I called them that too, office monkeys. I mean, guess what? We complain about like an 8-hour day. They put in like 12, 16-hour days every day. Working in these
life and neglect the family and all that. Yeah.
Working in these corporate offices. And I'll never forget one day, I was out with them and around midnight on a Saturday night, and the phone rang, and it was work for these people. And there's no like, I'm not answering it. There's none of that. You are picking up the phone.
Wow.
You are like, if somebody called me on Saturday night at midnight for work, I would like reach through the phone and strangle them.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no option like that there. And I think a lot of what this dad is doing is recognized later on, which I'll kind of get into a little bit.
Yeah, he recognizes little by little how his life affected his daughter, and how it's great how they had this terror, these zombies come, and that's the thing that really wakes him. Makes him realize what's going on.
That's part of it, and that definitely happens. I mean, because there's very much a theme of empathy. You've got family, you've got sacrifice. All these different things are happening in the movie, but also the theme that I think hit me the hardest is when that one blue collar guy, I don't know if he was an athlete or what, the really big guy, the really big Korean dude.
Yeah,
He tells him, I bet you never see your daughter, do you? You never play with her. He goes, dads get all the shit. They get no praise. He goes, it's all about sacrifice. He goes, when she grows up, she's going to understand why you were putting in all those hours.
Which is great. They're showing both sides of it.
Yeah.
Both sides of the argument.
Yeah, because, there is an evil guy in this movie. He ends up being the CEO of a big company, and he ends up like commandeering the entire train because he's a rich man. And so, in the Asian society, they sort of cater to, the rich, kind of people, whereas maybe somebody probably out here would have told them to shut the hell up and sit down. They probably would have hated him for being rich or something.
It's been a long time since I hated a character as much as I hated this guy.
Yeah, this guy was awful. He was awful, and he just
asshole.
Well, he
selfish.
He was the epitome of like completely having no empathy. It was completely about him and what he could do to survive. If he had to kill other people, if he had to throw other people in he threw that little girl, that teenage girl, in front of us. How many people did he killed? At least 3 people.
Like 3 people. The one conductor out the bathroom, or that one
Yeah,
person out the bathroom,
yeah,
and then the conductor, the end that went to save him.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah. And then the high school girl,
The high school girl, yeah, the
he
high school
kills
girl, yeah.
her. Yeah. There's this crossroads, as in, what do you want to do in this type of situation? Do you want to help, or do you want to look out for yourself here?
Yeah.
Now
The
you
way
can
I saw it, the way I saw it was maybe that if that didn't happen, the one father, he would have turned into that guy in the future. He was heading that way.
it's possible.
You know what I mean? The career he had, he's selfish about himself. You know, he was sympathetic to his mom and his wife, but he could actually become and grow to be one of those asshole CEOs somewhere where it's all about the money and all about the company.
Yeah, yeah. It could have definitely gone in that kind of direction. This was kind of a turning point, and I think a couple of times he's actually sort of shamed into, helping.
Yeah.
On those few occasions, like initially when the zombie attack occurs, he closes the door on the couple. One of them is a pregnant woman. He just closes the door. He's like, sorry. And they're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, let us in, this kind of thing. And the guy kind of gets in his face about it, this kind of thing. So, there's this gradual shift in his attitude in that, we can't just be about us here. We kind of have to stick together. It's very much the individualist versus, sort of the collectivist, the group. The individual, is it the individual here or the group? Who is sovereign? And
it makes you wonder how he would have reacted if he was on a train, but his daughter wasn't on there. He had no personal connection.
You know what I mean? She was kind of the moral compass. And I have complained. Her name is Soo-Ann Kim, and I have complained before in other movies about child actors, because I feel, with few exceptions, you rarely get a Haley Joel Osment, you rarely get a Linda Blair, you rarely get the kids from Jurassic Park, or something along those lines.
Yeah,
because kids just don't have the cognitive capacity for that kind of range. You know what I mean?
but
this girl was exceptional. She was fantastic. I think she stole every scene in the movie, because she's so damn cute. She, like, you just, it breaks your heart to ever think that, she would ever be in some kind of danger or something like that, so, it's perfect casting, and she's just a fantastic actor. She's a fantastic performer.
She's genuine. She's genuine. She could actually feel what she's going through. She was mature emotionally, that she could connect to the character.
Yeah, that I can't believe that happens very often. Because I've talked about that in The Omen. Because I'm like, how can a 6-year-old be the Antichrist? Like, a 6-year-old can't do anything. And sure enough, in that movie, that kid does absolutely nothing. He just kind of stares at you, and then they start playing bad music, and you're like, why are you telling me this is scary? This is stupid. It's like somebody told you this was scary, and you just nodded your head and said, oh yeah, it's scary. And you're like, there's nothing scary about this at all. It's a damn 6-year-old. Somebody slap him. Sit down over there, little devil baby. Be quiet. You're in the way. But this child, Soo-Ann Kim, fantastic performance, and she was kind of the moral compass for the show. Although, there were more than a few people, to help this dad along, and get himself together.
That guy.
Yeah. Really, he was the working. He initially closed the door on him. You remember that?
Yep. When everyone ran into the last cart or whatever it was.
Yeah. It's a hell of a thing. And it's so, not only is it well written, it's just well performed by everybody.
Yeah. The two old ladies. I love the two old ladies.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the two old ladies. I mean, all of that is like you could do that in such a way. I look at these scripts now. I've been doing this for what 7 months. Yeah. So, but I look at the scripts that really work, and the scripts to me that really work, and because I feel that this podcast focused on the better kind of movies. And if it's not one of what I consider one of the betters, I'll put it on something shitty, because then those are sort of the overrated movies. Yeah. But the better movies are the ones that have very little fat on them or no fat at all. Everything in there has a purpose. And those two old ladies are a perfect example of that. Two old ladies, two sisters, grannies, on the train while this is happening. They could have just been gratuitous comic characters.
And I thought at first it was, because they were kind of humorous at first.
Yeah, they could have been gratuitous comic characters that turned into fodder.
Yeah.
And they weren't.
But they start building that character.
Yeah.
Those characters. And
yeah, they start building those characters. Fantastic. The baseball couple.
Yes.
This very sort of shy boy who has this really sort of aggressive girl in high school that likes him, and she's kind of not taking a no for an answer because I guess she intuits that he likes her too, but he's just shy.
Yeah, yeah.
So she's like, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of everything. Just accept it. This is gonna happen." And it's you end up caring about them. The part this, and we're just sort of all over the place with this, but that's fine. Even his mother, having to listen to his mother die on the phone,
and his mother giving him advice and be there for his daughter, and be there right before and him hearing it.
Yeah,
it broke my heart. It broke my heart hearing that.
Yeah, but that didn't have to be included at all. That's just you saw the mother, she advises him because at first her advice is to, your family's most important. Maybe you can reconcile with your wife. But then I don't know, it sort of takes her over at the end and she ends up calling the wife a bitch.
Exactly.
So, in the end, maybe the Asian sort of veneer where you keep to the form of things sort of drops, and she tells you what she really thinks.
She's about to die, so she's being honest. Like, this woman left my granddaughter for some petty stuff and left.
Yeah.
You to raise your daughter by herself.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but you to have even thought to include that. I just thought that was an exceptional piece of imagination.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have occurred to me. Like he would have gone and then, they would have heard like Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames is going to see his brother. You never see his brother, but then you find out, that part of the city has fallen. It could have been the grandmom. Okay, we're getting on the train, and then they find out, oh, their hometown is just completely fallen. But to add that 2-minute little scene in there, where you're listening to her and she's like, she's old and so she's confused and she doesn't understand what's happening and everybody's fighting. And when she says everybody's fighting, what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Those zombies are getting there.
Yeah, yep. They're right there. You can tell she's probably already been bit. And you're
exactly. She does turn on the phone.
Yeah. That's what happens. And that's a genius. I find that I've never seen anything like that where you've had to listen to someone die on the phone, let alone your own mother. That's fantastic writing. Fantastic writing.
It's those little tiny scenes. Just like with the athlete, the big guy and his wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At first I thought his wife was like, straight up bitch. You know what I mean? I know she's pregnant and he's trying to console her and give her the world and all this stuff. But those little things, a little thing about the name. Oh, I guess in that culture, the male names the children. And it's like, he's telling the kid, oh, he's Don't worry about him. He even never named my kid yet. He doesn't know we don't know what the kid's name is. You know,
Yeah.
those like you said, those little things in their relationships gave this movie so much color, so much more than just a hard, gross movie.
Yeah, like I said, you've got family, you've got sacrifice, you've got empathy. Because I mean, everybody on here is a complete stranger.
Yes.
Like in most zombie movies. In most zombie movies, you get the scattered remains of whoever survived, and they end up putting something together. But I mean, the writing is done so well here, with so many different things, and to think that the two sisters, the grannies, bring about pretty much the death of everybody. Because
the two sisters when the
she,
one sister's like, you sacrificed my sister
yeah,
so you can save yourselves, and you
yeah.
didn't try to save her, you just left her there. Okay, fuck you. I'm opening this door. Yeah,
But
everybody.
it also has. I mean, you could make the argument too that it points out the downside of collectivism, because there's a whole group there that pretty much like let those people die. They let the big guy die.
Yes.
They let the granny die. And they're a group too. They're sticking together, but they're a group that's not. It's like a group of individuals. It's almost like a paradox.
I mean, I can understand when you're fighting for your life, you're fighting for your life. A lot of times you can't. I mean, I've never been in this situation, but it's like the airplane when they say to put on them, you put on yours first. You take care of you first, and then you go ahead and take care of whoever's next to you when the plane's going down or something like that.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, but see, that's the thing. They don't say put the thing on and then don't help anybody else.
Yeah, true.
They don't. They say put yours on first so you can help the next person,
Yeah,
especially if it's a small child or a senior, or a disabled person or something like that. You put yours on so that you can render aid to the best of your ability. Because
yeah.
if you don't get that on, then you're going to pass out. Yeah, but these people they've been completely commandeered by this coward, who just has zero empathy for anyone. And one of the funniest lines in the whole movie is in the very beginning, where they find that guy in the bathroom, and he looks at the little girl. The CEO looks at the little girl, and he goes, "If you don't go to school, this is how you're going to turn out." And she just gets this superior look on her face, like my mother says, anyone who says that is a terrible person.
I love that. I love the way she went back at him.
But then he just looks right at her and he just laughs and he goes, "Your mother must have flunked out of school." and I didn't get it at first, but she was right. He was an awful human being.
It started right there. It started right there. Me really not really disliking this guy. Really?
I thought that was funny. It took me, because I saw it again today. I wanted to watch it to keep current with, for the show today, because I wanted to make sure I remembered it. But when I first saw it the first time, I just thought it was really funny, and then it took me a minute to realize that he was the same guy from, later on in the movie. Yeah. It's a hell of a, it's that message that, having no empathy just leads to becoming evil.
And it's funny how somebody like that is people are attracted to that. Some people are weak and look for that leader. And if they have somebody who has no empathy or somebody who does, they'll follow whoever they have to. And that's what these people did. When he told them, why are you going to let them in this cart? You don't know if they're bit or not. I mean, they're talking, they're having good conversation, they're saying, we're going to be there, we're fine, we're going to just open that door, be ready. And he was like, no, don't let him in. And everyone automatically started saying, well, you're right. Yeah, what he says, I want to listen, I want to listen to him.
He's speaking to their fears.
Yes.
He spoke to the worst parts of them, and in their fear, they're scared. they gravitated towards someone to, who, said that they knew what to do,
And it was
yeah.
great that they made him the CFO of the whole train, the whole Amtrak company, whatever. You know what I mean? That I think that little thing helped.
He was a bastard. He was a bastard. They didn't develop his character much, but you really didn't have to.
No, not at
And
all.
so I've heard from a number of sources, and you may have heard these things too, that a lot of CEOs are psychopaths.
Yes.
So he perfectly fit that mold there, and he cost a lot of people their lives, huh?
You got to be cutthroat when you're CEO. It's about the business. It's not about the individual. Everybody in the company is just
because another person would do it to you.
Yeah.
It's not like if you're not cutthroat, then people will, then everything will work out. It doesn't work that way.
Kill or be killed, right?
Yeah, I always got that impression when people started thinking about President of the United States. The President of the United States probably every day within the country and throughout the world has people that are trying to punk him, or her. There is no her yet, but has people who try to punk him probably 365 days a year.
Yeah.
If you don't have the ability to be an asshole, I'm not saying you're not supposed to be a good person. But if you don't have that ability, you can get run over. You are going to get run over.
Yeah, and you're gonna ruin whatever company, corporation, country that you're leading.
Yeah, it's going to, because someone's going to do it to you.
Yeah.
Someone's going to do it to you. And so if you don't do it yourself, then then you're a weak leader. That doesn't translate too well to this particular situation where people's lives are on the line.
Yeah.
Because he's doing it without any. What he's doing ultimately is he's doing it without any sort of moral center. All he really wants at the end of the day is to save himself.
That's all. Exactly.
There are lots of ways that you can be ruthless, but for the preservation of the group and make hard decisions. This guy is literally throwing children in front of
front of him in order to
that's a human shield in front of a mob of zombies. So yeah, he's quite a bastard. Quite a bastard, this guy. And you see right there, they're covering that girl's mouth so she can't talk.
I can't scream saying, yeah, we're fine.
We're fine. Yeah. But I mean, again, towards the end, it comes back to sacrifice. And so many people end up sacrificing. And you realize, the dad had, like I said, maybe dad would have turned into one of these bad guys without, this sort of thing happening. But of course, we never find out.
The biggest sacrifice is the one that kind of touched me was the cheerleading girl and the baseball guy, where she was bit and he was dying. She was dying. She was about to turn, and he knew that, but he stood there and he had her in his arms. And the zombies came and bit him and got him.
I think at that point he just gave up.
He gave up for her. He sacrificed for her. He didn't want to be with. He didn't want to be without her. It showed that, because I who knows? I think most people, you're about to turn to a zombie. I love you, but peace. Let me go.
I was gonna say I love you, bro, but
I love you, but what about? I'm like, we had some good times. Yeah,
I'm gonna pull that old "feet don't fail me now" kind of thing from like the 1930s, man. I'll be pulling some old Mantan Moreland or some fucking like those old Charlie Chan, the fucking black guys. Those guys were fast, man.
They were
fast and real quick. They can pull a razor on you or something like that. But that would be but yeah. ultimately, I think, the blue collar guy, the big guy, points out that, the corporate guy is trying to sacrifice to provide, because, a father and, a man's, job, throughout history has been to provide.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing, and he just happens to be doing it in a way that's, not without cost.
Part of his relationship, his family, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's what
it's
a lot
cost
of
him a lot of things. It's yeah.
and it I mean,
And
unfortunately, a lot of people are like that. I mean, a lot of men and women work so hard to provide for their families and make sure everything is okay that they lose out on, the emotional connection, the relationships that they should be can be building.
what yeah, I was thinking about that, what must be the cost of these, like, celebrities?
Yeah.
The ones that have children and their children don't come out always the most balanced. These sorts of things, because mom and dad are always on the set or on the road or, off doing something. And,
And there's some
this
nanny
was,
raising them.
this
Yeah.
man was by and large a healthy man. So you think of the other, people who are, and then they have completely unhealthy lives, these sorts of things. And yeah, that kind of success has its price. But, like I said at the beginning of the movie, I mean, one of the things that comes up is that, as a result of the chemical leak, he's told at the very beginning to sell some stocks. Remember that?
Yep.
And so,
And
he has a boss too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, the company's kind of profiting
Off
off of this thing happening. And I thought one of the more interesting things, and again, maybe there is, I don't know. I thought it was just a great part, and it was unnecessary, but they made it work. Where that man, Mr. Kim, calls him, and he's just crying because he thinks this is all his fault.
Yeah, and he takes the heat on himself.
Yeah, and he's like, "Did I do this?" And of course he didn't do it. I mean, did you cause a chemical leak?
Yeah.
But he has a conscience.
And let's just said, I mean, you don't hate him in the beginning. You see that he struggles with this, struggle with being this type of person who's not there for his daughter and for his wife left him, and you sympathize with him. You know what I mean? They could have easily made the character like the CEO, CFO guy, and made him a total asshole. That's what I'm saying. You see both sides of the coin.
Yeah. Yeah, the girl has a point, but what he's doing for what you assume, what operates as under the umbrella of a valid reason.
Yeah.
This is his sacrifice, to provide. And, his mother, he can provide for his mother. He can provide for his daughter. They can have nice things. You just probably aren't going to see him very much. I mean, grandmother is recording the recital, so that he can see it later. And he's talking to her about it. She's like, "How did you see that? You weren't there." He's like, "I'm always watching you. I've always got an eye out somewhere, where I'm looking, that sort of thing." I think he's a moral man. He works in a corporate world, so he's kind of a cog in the machine, this sort of thing. But he's got orders to sell the stock, and then he rolls it downhill to Mr. Kim to tell him to sell everything. Because he's arguing. He's like, "This is going to hurt the market if you do this." And then whoever is on the phone with, it's like, "Get rid of all of it." Yeah. And it kind of rolls downhill. So, there's this repetitive theme of sacrifice. And then it's a figurative kind of sacrifice, but then it starts to get into a much more tangible kind of sacrifice where people start sacrificing their lives. And the young boy, he sacrificed his life to stay with that girl. He finally accepts her, but in the most screwed up circumstances.
Yeah, the guy sacrificed his life to save everybody else by because he couldn't get that door closed.
Yeah, he does that. The homeless man sacrifices himself to save the pregnant woman and the child because he's the only one able to hold those zombies off while the dad is trying to clear the crawlway. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so like everybody sacrifices, and even in the end, dad sacrifices because it's the avoidance of fighting with the CEO that isn't allowing him to throw him off the train. Once he bites him, he can grab him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And he
Yeah.
forced, he didn't want to, he sacrificed himself for the child, his daughter, and the woman. He lets him bite him. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of, and that's another thing too. I mean, a lot of the sacrifice, just like the blue collar man said, the big guy, sacrifice comes from the men. You know, and it's a thankless job.
And that's true. All the people that sacrifice themselves, except for the old lady.
She didn't exactly sacrifice herself. She kind of offed herself and everybody else.
Yeah.
She wasn't saving anybody, but I mean the people. I mean, and straight up in terms of the the lives of people, people who gave their lives to help someone else. It was always the guys.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't really help anybody else. She kind of killed like 10 people by opening that door herself to be with her sister.
Yeah. I mean, all of this, and that's the saying. Dads get all the shit. There's no praise. It's just it's a thankless job, and you're providing, and everybody hates you. Because you're not doing it the way that they want you to do it. We were talking yesterday about Bill Bengal. His number one movie was The Exorcist, and we were saying that there was an article in the news. Yeah, globally, it's probably in the top 2.
Yes.
But we were talking about an article that was in the New York Times where this man, he was writing this story about it, and how William Peter Blatty, who was the author of The Exorcist, it wasn't a coincidence that this girl, the Linda Blair character, Reagan, was a child of divorce, and that her father was absent from this situation, because fathers traditionally are the protectors. That's the traditional role of the man in the family. And so because she doesn't have that, it leads you to say, hey, she strays off into these other sort of things, where she's down in the basement playing with the Ouija boards and, these sorts of things. There's nobody in the home to protect her. Mom's off acting somewhere and, providing, don't misunderstand me, but there's no protector there. And in this movie, as a result of that, there are 4 father figures who step into the circle, so to speak, to defend this little girl. There's Father Marin, played by Max von Sydow. There's Father Karras, played by Jason Miller. There's the detective Kinderman. There's even the manservant Carl, who guards the door, and changes her diaper because she's shitting and pissing herself, all over the place, and throwing up, and doing all these things. So like 4 men, step forward to defend this little girl who has no father. They become sort of her surrogate kind of fathers. And a lot of that sort of gets overlooked in all the pea soup. This kind of thing. And again, you have this theme, and I don't know if, the director, whose name I can't pronounce because it's Korean. I don't remember it off the top of my head. I don't know if he did that deliberately, but yeah, I mean, the message that sacrifice and fatherhood and, all these sorts of things is just a thankless kind of job resonates, because it's the men that are, lots of people are dying, but the men are the ones that are sacrificing themselves to save others.
Yeah, the men, a long time ago, men go to war. Men were the one that were fighting, and women, the whole notion of, women and children first. Save yourselves. We're the men are going to sacrifice themselves. I'm going to die. I'm the man, and all that.
Well, but nowadays, if you hold the door open for a woman, you're an asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
It's this weird, bizarre kind of attack on like objective reality. You can't say that. You can't say that. Something is objectively true, and once you get people to say that, you can get them to say just about anything.
True.
What's that? The sky is orange? Okay, sure. The sky is orange. And then once they say the sky is orange, then they're going to have 20 other things. Well, now I need you to say this, and I need you to say this, and I need you to say this, and before you know it, the bottom is dropped out. Yeah. But I appreciated that, and I noticed in this second viewing that Dad pretty much sacrifices his life, and to save his daughter and that woman who's pregnant too, and once he allows himself to be bit, he can get control of the situation. That's his sacrifice to do it. It's a hell of a movie, and 1,000 times better.
That very last scene where she was singing.
Yeah,
I never knew those words of that song, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it breaks your heart, man. It breaks your heart.
If you start singing that song, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she, this was the song that she wouldn't sing because her father wasn't there. This. It's like it's a Hawaiian song or something like that, isn't it? Yeah, it's like an old Don Ho song.
Yeah, it's the goodbye. It's the traditional Hawaiian song. I mean, not traditional, but it's a Hawaiian song that if you hear it, everybody kind of knows it, subconsciously.
Yeah.
Have you heard it before? Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think Korea is a somewhat traditional conservative country. Because they're right there on the border with North Korea.
Yeah.
And I just happened to read that book by Yeonmi Park called In Order to Live, and she's a North Korean defector who made it all the way to South Korea, and it's the most amazing, horrific, inspiring story you'll ever read. But I don't think being right there, it's like the line between New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I don't think they have time to embrace the luxury of embracing, too many progressive values.
Yes.
Here we're blessed with here, actually, I shouldn't even say that. I'm going to be struck by lightning for even thinking it, but, I like that they did that, they sort of sent this message that, guys are necessary, and maybe some traditional roles are necessary, that kind of thing. Even if they did it subtly,
it's instinctual. It's instinctual as a man who was raised as a little person. Oh, when the dad goes off and there's a little boy and a daughter there, he goes to the son and says, "You're the man of the house. Well, I'm going to protect the family."
Yep.
He doesn't do that to the daughter. The little girl, or go protect the little sister and
look out for your mother.
Mom.
Yep.
Yeah, and you're the man of the house, and I'm gone. You need to, or the boy automatically steps up and quits school and starts working because he needs to provide for the family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's instinctual type thing when it comes to men and being the leaders and sacrificing themselves.
Genetic programming.
Yes.
Genetic programming.
Genetic programming, exactly.
It's a hell of a movie. If you see this on the replay, see it. It's on Hulu right now. I think it's also on Amazon right now. I have it on Blu-ray. I found a very inexpensive Blu-ray copy I previously viewed, so I picked that up. It's not a type of movie I would watch, but it's a favorite. I mean, out of all the zombie movies that are out there, this is tops.
Yeah.
This is tops.
And there was some good zombie attack crazy scenes, like the one when they're all holding onto the train and there's like the little triangle and they all jump on each other and the train is dragging that group. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a pretty good special effect or whatever it was.
Yeah, it's well shot.
Yeah, it is well shot. And the way they run on top of each other, it's kind of like a wave.
Yeah.
A wave of zombies coming at you, and you can see it from the back. The wave is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hell of a movie. In terms of zombie movies, I'd put it in the top 3. I don't even know what the other. There is one movie, and we're going to cover it soon. Maybe you and I could do that one. We'll talk about it after the show.
All right.
But shit, believe it or not, it's been almost an hour. And
Oh,
we've
wow.
been rambling all this time. I don't know if anybody who watches this is even going to understand what this episode is about. You and I understand it. And maybe that's all that matters about, fuck it. It's a good movie. Check it out. Yeah, it's among the best zombie movies I've ever seen. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Nope. I think we've covered it all. I don't think there's not much to cover in this movie, but the characters and relationships and all that. I'm glad we talked about that stuff.
If you have a structure that is based in reality instead of a structure that's based in horror, you have a good movie. If you have a structure that's only based in horror, a lot of times you end up with like Friday the 13th Part 10, or something like that. It can really go off the rails. You have to be very careful with that kind of thing. All right, let's wrap it up here then. Thank you to my man Rod Jean Charles. We're gonna stick around after the outro, and we'll shoot the shit. We'll be back tomorrow at 8:00 when we cover Sam Raimi's Drag Me to Hell. Now, until then, as my parting gift to you, my message is: don't waste your time with bullshit. Good night.
Peace.